Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open mind and heart to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality in a way that is extremely empowering. Speaking of exploring powerful perspectives, I'm super excited to announce the release of my very first book, The Golden Key: Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. If you're ready to alchemize the circumstances in your life so that your abundance expands to an entirely new level in 2021, head over to goldenkey.gift to download the audio or ebook as my gift to you by using the code POSITIVEHEAD. All right, all you positive heads, welcome back to another episode of the Positive Head Podcast. Yeah, that's the name. So glad to be back here with you all. Here we go again. It's another day in paradise. Hope you are all making the most of it wherever you are, whenever you are, however you find yourself, making it good. I know I'm making the most of it and enjoying every minute, sharing it with you guys. Going to continue today with answering some questions. We've just had a lot of great questions through the Facebook group, Positive Heads with an S. If you're not there, get in there. We want to connect with you. I love connecting with you guys, seeing you connect with each other, seeing you answer each other's questions. It's, it's quite a wonderful group to be a part of, and getting so many good questions lately. I figured this week I would just start addressing some of them. And here we are. Most of the week is going to be question based, but I know they're interesting and relevant to probably many, many listeners. So one of my favorite things is collaborating with you guys in that way. So keep them coming, please. You can write them in the Facebook group. You can send them to me directly via my email, brandon@positivehead.com. or through our website, positivehead.com, through the contact page. So also reviews, got some reviews on iTunes, which you guys know makes me very excited. I love getting that feedback from you to sort of fuel my fire to keep doing what I'm doing here. So if you haven't reviewed yet on iTunes, please do so. You can also find the show now on Google Play. But here's the review for today. This is by Stefan Paul. Says, thank you for the show. Imagine a young man sitting at an oversized IKEA desk, feet perched on a storage ottoman, staring at a wall behind his self-refurbished secondhand MacBook Pro, decorated with unfinished research articles and PowerPoint assignments. That's me, a 27-year-old physical therapy doctoral candidate trying to solve the age-old problem of free will, taking it on at the most inconvenient time possible. Anyone observing this scene may have concluded that this young man was either uninterested in finishing graduate school or extremely focused on something bigger. Outlets like the Positive Head podcast uniquely reassure us of our infinite potential while offering a thought-provoking escape from the minutia. Like many of you, I'm a dreamer to the highest degree. I've always been obsessed with the power and development of ideas. The Positive Head podcast lightens the burdens by turning this mental monologue into a conversation. Thank you, Brandon, for all you do. P.S. Thanks for adding me on LinkedIn. Oh, yeah, I did just log into LinkedIn for the first time in a long time. I remember you, Stefan. And thank you for taking the time to write this review and give us a little peek into your world. It reminds me of myself. I've always been quite the dreamer, and obviously not the only one, right? We are all, especially as we realize our potential and awaken to the truth of who and what we are, right? What is it that we're doing here? We're all dreaming. We are source dreaming. dreaming of itself. You are in a dream, and might as well make it a good dream and not a nightmare, right? Since we are the directors, writers, and in charge of what's going to happen here to some degree, to a major degree. It is, it's a great thing to be a dreamer, and I love to encourage that with myself. It's funny talking to my child, who's talking about college and all these things, and I'm like, look, unless you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or something that you really need to go that route, there's really no point. Go for something that your heart is calling, follow your heart, follow your bliss, right? You can't really lose with that. So unlike most maybe traditional parents, I'm like pushing the other way. Follow your dreams, because why? Well, life is too short. So Stefan's sitting behind the desk there and dreaming about something bigger and maybe not as focused on what you should be focused on. This is a natural process, right? As you become aware of more sort of the normal path seems less and less attractive, doesn't it? And that's not to say or put anyone down who's on a very traditional path. We all have our unique ways of getting there and unique. It's a personal journey, right? So, but by all means, dream and dream bigger. The bigger you dream, the more the universe, it favors the bold, right? It favors those who are willing to put themselves out on the edge. You've got to be willing to take those risks. You've got to be. Life's too short to play it safe, because there really is no safe to begin with. That's all an illusion. You can take the super duper safe path and end up completely blindsided by some unforeseen circumstance, like Jim Carrey talks about with his own father, how he could have been a great comedian, but he didn't think that was possible for him. He didn't dream big enough. He took the safe path, and it was still pulled out from under him. And Jim says, the greatest thing I learned from my father was that you can, fail not at doing what you don't want, so you might as well pursue what you do want. You can be completely blindsided by what you don't want. So that's a great point. Life is so short, really, in the grand scheme of the universe. We're a blip on the screen. We are a moment. Let's take it to the fullest. Just being fearless, jumping off the edge and finding it's a feather bed that waits for us, right? Like Terrence McKenna said, it is. You didn't come here to play it safe. It's there's too much opportunity for you to experience the greatest and grandest version of yourself. So that being said, wow, we jumped right in there, didn't we? Thank you, Stefan, again for the review. For those of you who haven't reviewed, please do so on iTunes. And they definitely help fuel my fire, as you can see. Now, moving right along, I had some questions, as I mentioned, from people on the Facebook group. Listener, Soul Family. This is from Corey. Corey said, all right, Brandon Beecham, you mentioned it recently, so I watched the movie Zeitgeist, and now my head is filled with thoughts of ruthless conspiracies and secret organizations controlling the world. What does this mean from a source consciousness standpoint? Why have we created such evil within our reality? My personal theory is that if life is indeed like a video game, then there needs to be an opposing force to overcome, a challenge, if you will. But is it our duty as awakened spirits to challenge this opposition? And if so, how do we go about doing this? Would love to hear others' opinions as well. What a great question. And not sure what Zeitgeist you watch, Corey. There's a few of them. I was suggesting watching Zeitgeist Moving Forward. I know Zeitgeist, the original one, is all about the conspiracy behind 9/11 and proof that it was actually sort of an inside job by our government, that sort of thing. There is a lot of evidence to suggest that, although I don't claim to be an expert. So I don't know. I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying it wasn't. I was particularly talking about Zeitgeist Moving Forward, which goes into the monetary system and how that is really a big sort of pyramid scheme, so to speak, which is, why you have 1% of the wealth or 40% of the wealth going to 1% of the people. I saw something recent. I forgot. It's like 8 families control like as much as half of our country or something crazy. So this is a great question, though, and it's a very important question, and it makes me instantly think of Mother Teresa. And you guys have probably heard me talk about this before. She was asked to march against the war in Vietnam, and at the time it was going to be a huge march, and they wanted her, this great figure, this Nobel Peace Prize winner, to be a part of it. And she said, I'll never do that, but have a march for peace, and I'll be there. So that gives you really the perspective. And I think, Corey, you're hitting it right on the head when you suggest it being a video game, and someone's got to play the villain. Someone's got to be, I've talked about the one of my favorite books by Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote Conversations with God. He wrote a children's book called The Little Soul in the Sun. Highly, highly recommend it to all you big children, little children too. It talks about this experience with this soul who wants to experience, I'll kind of summarize it real quickly. It takes about 20 minutes to read, probably 15 minutes. But to summarize it, the soul has everything's perfect. All the little lights that make up the sun, the little candles, if you will, souls, are all perfect, beautiful, stunning, magnificent. One of them wants to experience something different. He wants to have the experience of forgiveness. He realizes there's no one to forgive, right? He becomes sad. He starts this conversation with the sun, which represents God. All the other lights are watching this interesting conversation. The sun is, saying to the little light, you always were the adventuresome one. I knew you would ask this. I knew you'd be interested in this. And there is a way, but it will take, one of your fellow souls to dim their vibration, lower their vibration, forget how beautiful and stunning they are, so that they can do this thing to you, this awful thing that you can have the opportunity to forgive. And in that moment, they'll have lost themselves completely. They'll have slowed their vibration to such a degree, they'll have forgotten that they're actually this glorious, magnificent light being, and they'll be lost in the illusion, so to speak, that we'll create. And your job in that moment is to see them as they truly are, to remember the truth behind the deed, and hence the ability to forgive, right? And so I think that is a great, great way to look at it and to understand this, guys, for any of you out there who've had these things that have been done to you, these, because this is just an example, this conspiracy, these ideas. When you understand that the monetary system is this sort of, when we have plenty of abundance for the whole world to live very, very well and happily and healthily, and all these small children are starving every day, and all this awful atrocity. The whole world's problems stems from lack of abundance and resources. Meanwhile, it's being hoarded and kept from the masses by this system. I've heard it said recently that and I think someone even said it on the show. It might, I can't remember. I hear things sometimes, but I've heard it a few times over the last year, where any civilization that has a monetary system is essentially an enslaved civilization. They're still at a point in their evolution where it's a slave state or a slave world, and there's some truth to that, right? None of it's necessary, and that's what Zeitgeist moving forward sort of goes into and talks about, moving to a resource-based economy and sharing the resources. And what would we do if we all showed up on a world together and there was all these resources around? We probably wouldn't set up this monetary system. It's how do we use what's here so everyone benefits, and to treat it with respect, and to this capitalist society is exploiting resources and lying about science that's showing the damage we're doing, so that they can make more of this imaginary money and this whole ugly system. And it's easy to get upset at it and to angry at it, and I want to rail against it. But here's the thing, which Corey touched on here, is it is a game, and they are playing a role. You can't have light without dark. You're in a dualistic. 3D is dualistic, female, male, night, day, good, bad. This is all part of this realm. They say we sort of ascend, all that goes away. As you move into the fifth density or fifth dimension, all that sort of coalesces into a whole, a unity. But we are in the realm we're playing right now in the world of duality. And with that, you're always when you're playing in this realm, you're always going to have this sort of split and duality. So should we rail against it and be angry and furious and hate it? And no. What would love do now? Love is the answer. What was the question? right? That is the only way to approach it. Be for something and against nothing. So I'm not against all the atrocities. I'm for things that will heal the planet. And if I give my energy to all the conspiracies and all these things, and you see a lot of people that are so caught up in all the conspiracy stuff, and I think a lot of there's a lot of truth to it. I'm not sure it's all, I don't, you guys will notice I don't always say this is definitely true or this isn't. And if I don't know for sure or feel really, really strongly about it, I say, hey, I'm open-minded. There's a lot of evidence that points this way or that way from my perspective. But at the end of the day, I'm not making any declarative statement of absolutes of here's what is or isn't happening. There is a lot of evidence that there is sort of a cabal, as some people would call it, or Illuminati, or any of these secret societies that are, sort of pulling the strings, right? The president, Republicans and Democrats, all that sort of illusory, right? It's like, oh, you want to choose the puppet on the left or the puppet on the right? Let's put them in a box and give the people the illusion that they have some great choice, when really the controls behind it are never changing and, always playing both sides of the fence, right? And so that's a very, once again, it can be a very disheartening thing and upsetting thing to become aware of. But when you understand the big picture, there can't be the light without the darkness in this realm. There can't be up without down. There can't be left without right. It's necessary. They're playing a role. So in the end, it's a great big, in the end, when you fully understand, there's nothing but a thank you for everyone who's played every role. And for that matter, the souls, the light, right, that dim themselves so much so that they were able to do these dark, negative things and create this control structure on our planet where there's so much suffering. They're suffering in the process of doing it, and they will feel the energetic repercussions of what they've done. And yet they're still doing it to give us the opportunity to be the light, right? We get to be the light, and that's a blessing, and that's a joy. And we get to help heal this planet, and we get to help wake people up, and we get to wake ourselves up. And all of this would be unnecessary if it wasn't for things to overcome. But we just have to approach those things in such a way that we're not rallying against them. Instead, we understand them for what they are, and we send love and light to them, and do our best to do that. It doesn't mean you don't have moments of anger or any of those things. I certainly can be very fiery at times. I've been able to control it more and more as I've matured and as my awareness has expanded. But it doesn't mean you're going to be perfect and be a saint all the time. Certainly not. But when you have those moments, you come back down into a deeper understanding of, okay, this role is being played on purpose. It's part of the design. And for that, I'm grateful. And I'm grateful because it helps define me as a light worker, as the person who's here to help heal and clean up the mess. So this is what we're doing. This is what I think we're doing. And I don't think there's any reason to feel mad or get caught up in the conspiracies or any of those things. Like I said, I'll look at them, but with a certain amount of detachment, right? Oh, okay. That's interesting. Okay. There probably is something going on here. Maybe not. I don't know for sure. Whatever. Now, what can I do that's going to help? Where attention goes, energy flows, right? So if you give a lot of energy to something that you don't want, worst thing you can do. So I'm going to give it no energy at all. Very little. That's why you haven't really heard me mention much of this sort of stuff before. Instead, what can I put my attention to that I want to see more of? So that is my answer to that question. And Corey, I hope that helps give you some insight into my thoughts. And just jumping right along to another kind of conspiracy related question. I thought it would be good to tie these two together. This came from Tina on the Facebook group. Tina said, now that marijuana is becoming legal in California, I'm finding it hard to flip that switch in my mind, not just ethically, but professionally. I know Brandon Beecham has talked about this before so beautifully. It can be an understanding of the universe and experiences that provide you laughter and connection. Just wondering how you flip that switch. My generation and upbringing thought differently. Fighting against those core beliefs is somewhat difficult. totally understand, Tina. Makes me think of my own mother, honestly. My mother is like, she is like as goody as they come. Never smoked a cigarette. Maybe a sip of wine a couple times. I never heard her utter a cuss word. Like, just so, in the box with conservative ideals. And, she's very pure, very good. But with that has come a lot of judgment. And she's been taught that marijuana is evil and bad and negative. So it's funny to have kind of watched her come around as I show her, videos of a child who has seizures given CBD oil, and all of a sudden it helps the seizures tremendously, or a child with autism hitting themselves in the face repeatedly and then marijuana instantly helps them. I mean, what's so funny about it? It turns out to be the most useful plant on the planet, potentially. I mean, the uses of this plant are so incredibly good. I mean, what takes 20 years of tree growth, we can in less than a year. I forget. I don't know the exact numbers. I forget. But marijuana, we can use it for paper. We can use it for, the plant is useful on medicinally so many different levels. So what we have to, Tina, come to grips with is you have been, told what to think. Our society has been told what to think. And really, especially the older generations really believed it, right? We didn't never imagine that we could be lied to the way we have, or sort of led like sheep to think a certain thing. Marijuana is, here's the thing. You can't, a plant that helps heal things. There's no, in our society, you look at the fact that we have a healthcare system that's designed, it should have nothing to do with profit. If they cure you, there's no money in it. So there's really, with plants, they've tried to keep as far away from that as possible, because who are you going to pay for a plant? If you can grow it, it's a weed, right? It can grow easily. It does all these useful things. Well, no one's making money off of that. They think you can do it without their help. And so they've, made it into, you look back to the old videos of, how evil it was, and how, black guys would go out and rape white women when they would get high. And it's like, meanwhile, that's just a joke. It's like the exact opposite. It's like of what this does. I mean, that was the propaganda that was fed to, previous generations. And, now people are waking up and realizing, hold on, I've been lied to. I've been deceived. This isn't true. And it is hard, but really you just have to understand that you live in a society that is still at a point in its evolution, Tina, where a lot of things have been fed to you in a way that is steers you into thinking what the powers that be want you to think, and that included thinking this beautiful plant is really harmful. Now, like anything, can it be harmful? Of course it can. You know what else can be really harmful? Water. If you drink too much water, you can die. So everything has its use and purpose. And if someone is abusing it and smoking all day, every day, can it make them lethargic and not, they're probably not going to go out and start, creating these violent crimes like have been depicted in the distant past. But, it can be negative. Like anything water can be negative. Too much of anything isn't good. But, the only thing I can really tell you is, Tina, just to understand, that you have been, you've been led down a certain road of thought. Now, as your mind is expanding, I never thought I'd see my mother look at something like marijuana and kind of no longer judging it as this evil thing that's going to destroy your mind. And, every song you've ever loved has been written by someone who smoked some weed, right? It is very creative. It's very creative. It's very opening. It's very positive. And it makes you laugh. It makes you happy. Now, it can also make you paranoid. There's both sides of the coin with all things. So you just have to bring a more holistic, broad view to these things. And this black and white sort of stuff that's been fed to us through the television, over the years, television, they've told you what to think. And now you're breaking out of it. A lot of people are breaking out of it. information flowing more freely through things like the internet and alternative media and like the show. It's really having an impact as we awaken, and it's part of our process. So yeah, as far as flipping that switch, it's just a matter of really just understanding, you were led down a certain path and you were trusting and you were innocent and you believed it, and that's okay. It's okay that you were misled, and it's not fully wrong. It could be negative for someone too, but why are we going to focus on that? Because it really, really has a lot of super, super positive. CBD oil for cancer. So many, if you start looking at, some of the things that it's doing on all kinds of, from using it as building materials, paper, medicinally. I mean, it's on and on and on. This thing is so darn useful. So that being said, guys, that's my questions for today, my answers for today. Hope they help give some clarity. Tina, just go easy on yourself on the whole, how do I flip this? It's difficult. Just relax about it all. You've been, programmed hardcore to believe something, and now it's being shaken. And that's a beautiful thing. And just always seek to look at it from the broadest perspective possible. And what's happening now, you're rewiring your brain and you're rewiring your understanding. You're expanding your understanding. And that's a beautiful process. So this is all part of the divine plan. There's never been a mistake. We're right on time. We're right where we need to be. The powers that be that maybe are controlling things. Great. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so grateful that I get to play in this realm of duality and experience and help define myself. This is what creates the uniqueness. Imagine if we were all the same. Imagine if everyone sounded exactly like me. Every podcast sounded exactly like me. Every person sounded exactly like me. Your neighbor dressed exactly like you did, had the exact same tastes. If it was all clones, man, there wouldn't be much to do or say or care about, right? This gives us meaning. And we need it all to have the meaning. We need that contrast. And we're in it right now. We're in the middle of a major transition. And in 3D, the dark and light is certainly playing out its game that it plays out through eternity until you come to a point where you've had enough of duality and you ascend to other dimensions where it's a whole different type of experience, right? So, but here we are, and we're here for a reason, and it's perfect. So, I got to say, I'm happy to be here. I'm blessed to be here. I'm blessed to understand this stuff or seek to understand it and share with you guys and connect with you guys and ponder all of this with you. It is exactly, out of all the choices in eternity that I had, this is what I wanted to experience now. And here I am. And same with you. And when you can understand that about your life and what you're doing and where you're at with your struggles, with your pitfalls, with your disappointments, out of all the options, you were Source and you had all the options that Source had at its disposal, and you chose to be you where you are now. So when you can understand that and then move into a perspective that you own that, like this is perfectly imperfect with all the challenges, all of it. I love it. And you can bring that love to where we're at as individually and collectively as a society. The good, the bad, the up and down. You understand it's all actually good. It's perfectly imperfect. Now you go on to something. Now you get ready for the train to start picking up steam and to move through lessons that no longer serve you to be held back. As you understand, that's how all the barriers start falling away to your comprehension, to your acceptance, to you bringing love to it. I love it exactly as it is now. I love this job that I've taken a perspective of that I hate before. I've seen the beauty in it. I found a way to find it from expanding my perspective. That is a badass. And that's what we're all here doing. You are getting it down. You're a master. You're a master in disguise that's forgotten you're a master, and you're waking up to the fact that you are a master again. And once you do, and as you do, things change, the experiences change, and all the barriers are going to start just falling off like old layers that no longer serve you. You've learned the lesson that you need to learn from them. All right, everyone. That's it for today. It has been quite the journey. Love you all, as always. Keep on keeping on. I do have a wonderful track that I have not listened to in quite some time that I really appreciate. Great singer-songwriter Ben Harper. This one's very appropriate. It's called Burn One Down. Also, before we cue up today's song, as a quick reminder, don't forget to download the Golden Key audio or ebook as my free gift to you at goldenkey.gift using the Golden Key code POSITIVEHEAD. And please, if you enjoy my gift, leave a positive review on Amazon so others can unlock their lives with the help of the Golden Key as well.
And it's not a curse.